And I'm very disappointed by Albo. I mean, he won't condemn the ICC arrest warrant for Bibi Netanyahu, the press is reporting, because he doesn't want to lose the vote. Well, I mean, that seems to me really horribly cynical because there's what now? 800,000 Muslims in Australia?
Mm.
I can't believe that all of them feel this way, just like the IRA was in the UK and Ireland. This is a very small number of people. My Muslim friends in London are afraid to go out in the street because, white British folk, they say, glare at them. So, I don't think Albo really needed to do that. He could have condemned that idiocy along with everybody else, like even poor old Joe Biden.
I completely agree with you. I think he is wrong not to condemn the ICC. Look, getting back to the protesters and who's really turning up to these demonstrations, as we just saw in that clip, some people don't really know why they're getting swept up in it. And then we are seeing reports that others are getting paid to be there. What impact are the political agitators having on these demonstrations?
Well, I think you've got three classes of people. You've got the political agitators who are certainly, according to sources like the French Interior Ministry, Russian agent provocateur, who are coming over there and paying people and organizing anti-Semitic and anti-Israel marches so that the what we now call the Axis, the powers of Russia, China, Iran, Yemen, and North Korea, can destroy Western values and Western supremacy. So those are really hardcore agitators. Then you've got the people who are being paid, who are the usual suspects who show up at these things and make a lot of trouble. And then you've got the masses of very innocent, well-meaning, pretty naive kids and grown-ups who are fighting for Palestine as they see it. And it's a huge part of it. I think, Gabrielle, is a function of social media and television, which we didn't have, for example, when Britain was bombing Dresden, when they just blew the hell out of every building in Dresden, killed everybody, didn't care, wanted revenge. Or even worse, can you imagine social media? Can you imagine X and Insta and television reporting on Hiroshima? Where they flattened the place and millions of people. I mean, so these people are seeing this stuff for the first time and it's driving them crazy and out onto the streets. But they don't realize how they're being used as pawns, I feel.
And what's it doing in terms of fueling anti-Semitism? I was speaking to a Jewish student just last night about his experience, the names that he's been called, how unsafe he feels as a university student. What's your assessment of it?
Well, anti-Semitism has been around for a long time. If you Google the words anti-Semitism timeline in Google, you'll see that it goes back thousands and thousands of years. It's always the same thing. And a lot of this anti-Semitism has always been there. And it's just an opportunity for it to come out of the woodwork. It's a good excuse because people can now claim that they're anti-Zionist, but not anti-Jewish. But it's a very fine line. And if you look at the protests, I wasn't in Melbourne, but certainly in London, you see swastikas, you see people yelling, kill the Jews, all sorts of stuff, while the police, just as in Melbourne last weekend, just kind of stand by and don't do very much.
And what should universities be doing?
Well, I mean, they should be cracking down. I think one thing about the universities is that what has been there are two schools of thought here in the UK and in the US, which are there should be no protests, close them down like France and Germany did at the start. On the other hand, free speech exists, let them protest, but let them go somewhere like Regent's Park in London, where they can make all the noise they want, but they don't keep ordinary people from going to work and earning a living. I mean, there's reports every day in the news here about people who are, they're gig industry workers or day workers who've lost a day's pay because they were blocked by Stop Oil or some other protest. So the good thing about the university is they're confined to the campus, and that makes it somewhat better.
Looking at what's unfolded in the past 6 months or so, where would you say we're at? Is there a deeper divide than there was, say, on October 6th?
There's certainly a deep divide. Yeah, it's probably deeper in that I think that a lot of people, at least in the UK, are getting sick and tired of this, having their lives disrupted every Saturday for seven
Yeah.
months, listening to all this nasty polemic demands from all sorts of high-ranking, good and great people for a ceasefire without an explanation of how do you have a ceasefire, you know, with somebody who's going to kill you the next day. And I think they're getting very, very tired of it, and the pressure is on both parties, whoever is the next prime minister, to do something about that and maybe stop them or move them to a particular area where they can drive themselves crazy and have a ball.
Look, finally, I want to speak to you about woke politics. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese plans to remove a government position from his cabinet. A source close to the Albanese government revealed to the Daily Mail that the role of Assistant Minister for the Republic would be dropped. Now, this move aims to distance him from woke propositions that might affect his re-election bid. What are your thoughts on this? Are we getting sick of woke politics now we're in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, you could almost kind of conflate the protests with the woke politics to a certain degree. And I think we're all getting sick of that too, because, the woke politics, wokeism is essentially joyous, negative, judgmental, privileged, entitled, and most of all, victimhood on steroids. And I think people are getting tired of listening to this whinging and moaning. And at first they were made to feel guilty, but one can see that large corporations around the world are dumping all of their DEI and their ESG, environment and governance, all these things that have nothing to do with their business, but which they feel made them more acceptable to the criticisms of the woke people who they thought might be their customers. And they're kind of realizing this is just a waste of time. So I do think that as these big companies disband these departments and these programs and stop funding them, there won't be money for coaches. There won't be money for symposia. And there'll hopefully be less money for the agitators to pay people to go out and protest.
Absolutely. Dr. Roger Gewolb, so brilliant to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Thank you.